Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. We're watching the Cup tonight. The Hawks beat the Knicks 108-100. We were just discussing, first of all, Jalen Johnson. I was talking to these guys about how this guy, I didn't even really know he existed. I was vaguely aware of his existence last year, but I think last week was the first time I took a good look at him and his numbers over the last couple years, and we were all kind of raving about him. He's 2010 guy, like almost 6 assists, 22 years old, out of Duke. Just so under the radar. I haven't barely heard his name before, and he's kind of got all the credentials to be, a legit all-star type of guy, and he's putting up those numbers this year. And then we were also talking about Dyson Daniels. Pelicans maybe gave up a little too early on him.
He's
Um,
definitely a doesn't show up in the box score kind of a guy. Like he gets some steals and blocks and rebounds and things like that, hustle stats, but mostly it's like the deflections and just making it really hard for guys. I mean, there were several plays where Jalen Brunson was like just completely shut down by him on a switch or something like that, to where he just couldn't even get a shot off. They just locked him up. Yeah, he's a very impressive defender, and I think his he has like 60 more deflections than the next highest guy in the league or something like that. He's a monster on defense.
Yeah, they're exciting to watch. I heard that the stat that was broadcasted out there was that they have the most alley-oops in the league, which obviously Trey's a part of that, but when that kind of ball movement starts flowing, it gets contagious. And we haven't even talked about it. They have the number one draft pick of the league last year because some of these other guys are already out there. So you can give him time to kind of come along slowly. He's only averaging like 24 minutes per game, averaging almost 12 points per game, almost 7 rebounds a game, right? And let me look at the shooting splits because I looked at it earlier in the season, but I'm not sure. So he's shooting kind of a lower percentage, but I've seen some games where he's had some highlights, some good stretches, some poor stretches. He's shooting pretty poor actually this early in the
He
season.
kind of he had a bad game tonight too. I think he was like 1 for 7 or something. At least that's what I saw at one point.
Yeah, but he's gonna be able to go under the radar for a while and develop in a good position where he's gonna have a guy that gets him the ball in Trey Young and wings around him. Like if they slot in right, the pieces are there, right? Like Trey can be good for a long time. Daniels is a perfect fit next to Trey, Shea, and then Jalen Johnson. Like that's kind of your slot right there. That's pretty great moving forward. I don't really know about their long-term center. Okongwu is really undersized, but
Pella's
that
been holding it down there for a while
long
now
time.
in
Yeah.
Atlanta. Then the other bench guys, Hunter, he's kind of again, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these guys, I almost remember them more in college than since they've been a Hawk. They're just under the radar. This team, it's been discussed before. They've pretty much been a 500 team like the last 4 or 5 seasons or something like that. Kind of meh in a lot of different ways, but all of a sudden they do have some pieces. They made some moves. The Murray thing was never going to work. I thought that was a completely bizarre decision to try to pair Trey Murray or Trey Young with another point guard. And so flipping him for Dyson and whatever else they got for him seems like a really good move because, like you said, Dyson he's 6'7", Dyson, and like you said, a monster on defense, deflecting, getting a whole bunch of steals. I think he's leading the league in steals by a bunch too. So a good fit for a small guard, kind of like what Damian Lillard could have desperately used in Portland his entire career, and really what he could still use in Milwaukee, I think.
Yeah, Colton was making an interesting point right before we hit record, about how there's some parallels between this Hawks team and the way that they've kind of continued to build around Trey Young and continued to give him chances. And the fact that we went a very different direction with the Blazers.
I will say Trey Young is a lot younger than what Damian Lillard is now. So I think if Damian was 4 years younger, I would have said go ahead and give it another shot to put some more pieces around him. But I think the move would have been a little different. But it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Brandon Miller would have been the pick rather than if Scoot was on the board. But the Blazers weren't the ones to make the call at that stage. They were third with three of the three-tier players in that draft, and they took the player that was third, the last player in that top tier, proposed top tier. So can't really fault them, in my opinion, for what was on the board. So
I still think it's kind of worth going back in time a little bit, though, just trying to learn from the past, as we move forward and just kind of understanding and grappling with the fact that we never really gave Damian an opportunity like they're giving to Trae Young right now. Like we never gave him a defensive guard, running mate. We
I
never even
agree.
tried it. That was kind of a
He
shame.
did try it though, and it worked. If you remember the Wesley Matthews
Okay, yeah, Wesley. But
teammate.
once he went down, we never did it
But
again.
but that's what I'm saying. The recipe was there and it looked good. That's when what that was when the Blazers looked like they were, obviously LaMarcus Aldridge was there too. But when Dame was there with Wes and Dame was still up and coming, you had that balanced backcourt. That was an exciting time to be a Blazer fan. I know I don't want to like transition away from the past instantly, but what can you guys talk about now that's an exciting time to be a Blazer fan now that we've seen this season? Balanced backcourt, some defense, some size.
If who ever plays, that's part of the problem is the dude is always out. I'm starting to get worried about that. I guess he did play in the last game, which I was excited to see him back, but he has missed so many games in his 2 years. And whether that's the team trying to keep him out to protect him or whatever, or if he's actually just keeps getting banged up. Either way, it's a bad sign, I think, because you want basketball players who play basketball on your team. And even if it is the team coming to him and saying, "Hey, I think we should sit it out," it'd be nice if he was like, "Hell no, I'm not sitting out. I want to compete. I want to go out there. I want to play. I want to play hard. I want to get better. I want to learn." And so far, it's just he has not put together a consistent string of games in his career yet, and it's got to happen soon, or else I'm gonna start getting real worried about it.
Yeah. I so here's the interesting thing. And we don't want to talk about, moving forward to the draft because I think there's a whole season ahead of us to look at some development. I really think that we're going to have such a clearer picture after this trade deadline. If not, and I've said this before, after this trade deadline, if there's not major moves, then Joe really is struggling and might we might need to look at moving on from Joe because there's the time is now to move some of these guys. Uh, if there's not a clearer picture being made by the end of this season, the guys in the draft, the guy that's actually been rising up the board and been balling out is actually Ace Bailey's teammate, Dylan Harper. I don't know if you guys have been following the draft at all, but he has been looking incredibly good. This whole draft class is looking amazing, right? But Dylan Harper is like a 6'5" lead guard, and he has been looking like a better version, in my opinion, of like Cade Cunningham, like better than Cade, in my opinion, in college, how he looked. So there's guys out there like if Scoot is really concerning with his health, and you always take the best player available, especially if you don't have a franchise guy locked in where you're completely set, right? So there's options available for you in the future. You don't want to keep running this treadmill, but I think it'll be a lot clearer after the trade deadline, and I think we'll see a long stretch of the lineup TM that we want to see and that we just saw because good news, guess who's coming back, right? A guy by the name of, can we guess? He's
Mhm.
on his way back. Donovan Clingan, right? Cleared for on-court workouts, ramping up towards return to play, considered day-to-day moving forward. That was yesterday. So sounds like Donovan's about to make his return. I wish he was going to start. I don't think he's going to start with Aiton in the fold here, but my point being, we're going to see more of the guys out there trade deadline comes around, if these guys are still on the team, we're going to be banging on Joe's door saying, what's going on?
D- Do you think it would? I feel like it would be kind of wild to draft another 6'5" guard, given our lineup right now. I mean, I guess if
Oh,
you
it would
move
be wild.
Anthony, maybe that would be okay. But I mean, unless we can somewhat clear out the glut of point guards and guards, I don't know. It seems like
We only
that's
have
a lot of guards.
Blazers only have one point guard on the team. Scoot. He's it. There's literally no other point guard on the team. The rest of them are all off guards. So like another guy that can handle the ball and potentially be a decision maker, that wouldn't be the worst thing, especially with Scoot's track record of not being able to stay on the court.
If the whatever's the best position available, I mean, I would kind of balk at taking like a center right now, obviously, for obvious reasons. Any other position? I mean, even, unless it's a game-changing center, but I would take it. Really, nobody's really taking the reins yet. I've seen flashes from every position on down that is promising, but at this point in the season, nobody's that guy that you're like locked in, cornerstone. He's gonna be like no doubt about it, superstar. I have seen flashes from Shaden. I have seen like positive flashes from Scoop, but I have seen negatives. I have seen positive flashes from Donovan. There's been positive flashes from those other players like Tumani, Denny, the core guys, which is all good, but there's no guys that I would stop drafting like the best player available for, in my opinion. And I think we'll see. I do think we'll get a more crystal clear picture by the end of the season of that, Riley, though. Like, hopefully by the end of the season, we'll know that. We'll say, like, no, we can't do that because Shaden is the guy. I mean, I'm always the best player available guy, though. That's just my opinion. Unless you have like the superstar of superstars, but at that
So that
spot.
article that you sent us, did that have like actual trade
No, I mean, so
packages?
so this is the good news. So Shams, because Woj is no longer with us. I'm glad he's having his time in the sun. He's still
Sounds like
with
he
us.
died.
He's with us, but he's not with us news wise. Um, so basically, rival teams are looking at a couple different Blazers players right now. Anthony, Robert Williams, and Jeremy Grant, which all good news. Obviously, depends on what you get back. Um, I think that Robert Williams specifically in the article that was linked had some like hot commodity was referenced as a hot commodity, which we kind of knew that was going to happen. We couldn't really know what the outcome of that Boston trade was until we see that Robert Williams trade being completed, which we knew this was going to come, which Robert Williams should be. When he's out there, man, he's a game wrecker. The names that were brought up for the teams for Robert Williams that I've seen, Bucks, Lakers, Suns, Rockets are among contending teams who have recently checked in on Robert Williams. So all those guys, I mean, Rockets, what if you could get kind of I don't know if Rockets would part with anybody, but if they've got somebody that's sitting by the wayside that they're not using, that's young, that you could grab from them, give it a shot, right? A Lakers pick that could be valuable down the road because they're that old bomb that's going to go off, give that a shot. Same thing with the Bucks. If you could get another pick from them, give that a shot. So there's still value to be had. I think Joe should be busy this trade deadline. I think this is the year he's got to rip those band-aids off at some point. Got to get value.
It's disappointing, but not exactly surprising that one name is very much missing from all of those rumors, and that's DeAndre Ayton. I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of him very easily. I don't think he has done nothing but diminish his trade value this season. I just can't imagine that anybody would want him, like, except, I mean, even for scraps, like just his salary alone is going to be a deterrent. I don't think we're going to have an easy time getting rid of him. But it would still be helpful to move Anthony, Jeremy. Um, yeah, I think Jeremy and Robert Williams have both been shown good value this year, even on the Blazers team. But long term, I still think it makes sense to move on from them whenever we get value. Um, and Anthony's definitely got to go just to make room for the future. But yeah, it would be nice if we could try to figure out a way to package Aiton in one of these trades, maybe. Get like a multi-team deal going where you got a couple of teams that want, win now pieces. Unfortunately, I don't know that he's a win now guy. Um, but it's definitely going to be a glut for the Blazers for the next couple of years, I'm afraid. Try to figure out how to equalize those salaries.
You mentioned the Rockets. They're in a battle right now with the Warriors. Close game for the chance to go play the Thunder in Vegas in the Cup. I think all of us picked the Mavericks over the Thunder. The Thunder handled business yesterday. And so it's going to be the Hawks and the Bucks. Colton, your pick's still alive. And the winner of this Warriors Rockets game versus the Thunder. Any updates to your picks, Riley? I mean, now that your pick is out, do you have a new favorite?
I think the Bucks are going to beat the Hawks. I like watching the Hawks tonight. I thought that they looked pretty good, but they looked out of control a lot of the game. They're still like definitely figuring some things out, pretty young. And I just think that the Bucks like experience is going to be better. Dame and Giannis both looked incredible in the game the other night. I mean, they both looked like world beaters to me. They still need help, like no doubt about it. They need a lot of help. Middleton had flashes, not really enough. Trent had, like a couple of really timely shots. The one that he had was really good timing, like in the middle of the third. No one but Giannis or Dame had scored for like 18 game minutes or something like that. And then he hit a really nice three that like extended the lead out to 9 or something, and it was pretty much over from there. Um, but yeah, they need help, but they do look like two of the best offensive players in the league right now, as we know they are. Um, and the Hawks just seem like a little bit green, a little bit out of control, a little bit need the refs to let them go crazy in order to win games. That's how the game tonight felt anyway. They really had to be able to like slap a lot of hands in order to win that game. So I think that the Bucks will win. In the West, I think I'm going to stick with the Warriors. The Warriors and OKC is going to be interesting. OKC looked really good, but I don't want to overreact. Just because OKC kind of killed the Mavericks. I think it's going to be the Warriors and the Bucks. I'll give experience the edge in this one.
And who's gonna win?
The Bucks.
So you're saying
Going in Team Colton.
it's time.
Yeah, I think Dame's on a bit of a
Dame's
mission.
gonna get some hardware, some
Yeah,
odd hardware for his trophy case, and then when people say you don't have a ring, he'll say, "But I have a cup."
good for him.
Playing
He's got to
couple
take what he can
playing
get.
banners, Mickey Mouse MVP.
Rookie of
Dame's
the
got all.
year. Yeah. Okay.
I was definitely so my gut and my instinct told me to go with the Thunder last week, but you guys talked me out of it with your Mavericks talk,
Don't
convinced
put this
me.
on
It's
us.
on you guys. It was your
Oh,
fault. I should have
wow. Not taking
stuck with my
accountability
instincts.
for your pick.
No, that was you guys. You guys talking about the
Wow.
past. Should have looked forward ahead to the future. I'm riding with the Thunder. I think they're gonna take it all the way. They're my new pick to win the whole thing.
Who's gonna win out of the East?
Oh, I'm joining Shaq, and I'm gonna go Hawks get the upset against the Bucks.
Wow. Well, you almost persuaded me, and either way, whatever pick gets made on either side, I'll just say the other person persuaded me, just like what you did. So that way, either way, it's not on me. But I think I'm gonna go with my original pick. I'm not gonna change my pick and say the Bucks are gonna win it all. Spoiler. And by win it all, I mean the cup, not the
Not
trophy
the
at the end of the
championship.
year. Um, and I think that it'll be contested, hotly contested. Um, Trey Young will do Trey Young things, but Giannis is better than Jalen Johnson, as good as Jalen Johnson has been, right? Dame can hang with Trey Young, right? More than hang. They can do their contest of coming around the screen and drawing the foul by stopping. Whoever can get more fouls drawn that way will win the game. Uh,
The battle of stopping.
the battle of stopping. Well, you know, I do think that they're fun to watch, both of them. They both have slightly different play styles, but they both do that. So I think it's a
They
fun
both
comparison in
stop.
that sense. They both stop. So that'll be a fun game. And then on the other side of the pond, the other side of the window there in the West, I don't know, man. I gotta go keep thinking the Rockets are gonna pull this out against the Warriors.
You
Uh,
have the Warriors.
I'm gonna change my mind.
Oh, you flipped. All right, fair
I'm gonna
enough.
flip. Yeah. I said that the league was gonna rig it for the Warriors, and you know that could still be the case, but I just don't want it to happen, so I'm gonna go
I
against
know, same
what I
here.
want to happen. Uh, just Draymond just is so annoying to me. So I'm just so tired of it. So I just want to see them get eliminated. Also, Draymond getting benched. Who would have thought that was the catalyst to them winning another game or two, right? That was what they needed was just Draymond getting benched. And then he had a dunk and did a night-night celebration or something like that. That was
On Go
interesting.
Bear.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sweet dunk for a 36-year-old guy who's never been able to jump.
Yeah. Interesting, right? The backpack man. Um, So, anyways, my Golden State negativity aside, if Houston wins this game, if Golden State wins this game, it's not going to matter. The Thunder are going to beat whoever advances, and it's not going to matter again because the Bucks are going to beat whoever advances, and that being the Thunder. So, long story short, the Bucks are going to take this, and then we'll come back. And if the Bucks lose, I will say I was influenced by whatever you guys said.
Thunder and Rockets would be a fun game. I really hope that the Warriors don't win. Steve Kerr has also been pissing me off lately. He's just annoying me. I don't even know why necessarily. He just throws his players under the bus, his young guys. Like, why would you do that? Starts complaining about timeouts that got called that never happened. I don't know. He thinks very highly of himself, and I guess he's got reason to. He's won a lot in his career and been a part of the two like most winning teams in NBA history. But he's starting to that whole team is starting to grind on me a little bit. Other than Steph, Steph is hard to hate
Starting
and
to?
super fun to watch.
Welcome to the
What?
party. Where have
No,
you been?
I have the entire run. Like they're a team that I like in theory, but every time that I've ever watched them in a playoff series, I don't know if I've ever rooted for them in a playoff series. Maybe against the Lakers. I definitely thinking back to every single one of their championship series though, I was rooting for the other team. Cavs both times, the Raptors, the Celtics. I don't even remember the other one. Was it Cavs three times? It might have been Cavs three times. But yeah, every time I look back on those, I was rooting for the other team, and it's hard to even point out why, other than Draymond is very easy to point to. But yeah, I think I agree with you. OKC would be either one of those teams, but it'd be a lot more fun to see them in the Rockets, so that we can see that template that Portland is following as those two teams face
And
off against
also
each other.
and also potentially a preview of the Western Conference Finals, if not this year, in the very near future. I mean, those two teams are going to be right up there at the top of the conference for years to come. This year, I don't know, one experienced team might still make it through, but I think in the Western Conference Finals, we're going to get at least one of those two teams this year, and maybe both of them next year.
To be honest, there's parity in the league right now for sure. Like, but I don't think as many teams have a chance to win it as some of the media says. I think it's like three teams have a chance to win.
What
Like
teams?
Celtics. I can't think of another team in the East that I really trust to win. New
You
York,
don't think
Cleveland.
21-4 gets it done in the East?
Hell no. Hell no.
What round do you think Cleveland makes it to?
Second. And then looking at the West, I think the Thunder could win. And then outside of that, I don't know if I really trust any of them either. Maybe Denver gets hot, but I think losing KCP hurt real bad. Now they have Russell Westbrook on their team. Yikes. You never know when Jaw's gonna, start being a straight shooter. Otherwise, Grizzlies, I don't know. Rockets, I think they're a year or two away from being a real contender. Maybe Dallas gets hot. It's like maybe OKC, Dallas, and Boston are like the only teams I can actually envision. Any of the other ones, it would just be such a crazy sight to see any of the other ones win. The Bucks, like they got the two guys, but their depth is horrendous after that. They can't they have hardly have a guy other than Bobby that can get you 10 points.
I'm sure they're going to try to be active at the trade deadline. I don't know if they have a whole lot of assets to move.
Another pick.
They might have to get kind of lucky. But I mean that does happen sometimes. Sometimes you can fleece a young team or something like that, or some
Come
team that
trade for
decides
Anthony Simons. Milwaukee, try the Dame Anthony backcourt. Maybe you guys can make it work.
maybe they can
Can
take
they
Jeremy too.
coexist?
And Gary Trent, yeah, that'd be great. Who's ever tried that before?
Can Dame and Anthony coexist? All these Bucks podcasts having title in their videos like we did 3 years ago.
I sort of agree with you that that Milwaukee, as they're constructed right now, is not a serious contender for a championship this year. The only team I can think of that I agree with your concerns about Denver. They definitely got worse. They could also try to make a move at the deadline, and they do have probably the best player in the NBA. Hard to discount that too much. I think that they're at least still a contender that has
It's
to be
crazy
taken
though. He's
seriously.
dropping like 56 points and they're losing to the Wizards. That's a
I
bad
know.
sign.
I know.
Where have we seen that before?
Yeah.
Do
No,
you
they're
have any other
definitely in
teams that you
trouble.
would add to that short list, Riley, of contenders?
I think just Denver is the only other one that, and I think a lot of these teams, if they're going to be a serious contender, they're going to have to make a move. I don't know about Dallas either. I mean, maybe they might be. It's all about how hot Luca gets, whether he gains or loses 10 pounds over Christmas. All those things really come to into play when you're talking about Dallas. They can be great. They didn't look very good in the quarterfinals of the tournament, honestly. Um, so I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think I'd put Denver kind of on equal playing field with Dallas, honestly, in terms of you just don't know exactly what you're going to get from one of these best players in the NBA that anybody's ever seen, skill position guys. Um, or you might get a disappointment because they don't have enough help.
You know what you're going to get from them. It's the supporting cast on both teams. It leaves questions. Colton, what about you? Any other, what's your short list?
I mean, it's the Celtics versus the field at this point, in my opinion. The Thunder and the Celtics both have the same record. I'll have to see it from the Thunder in the playoffs, before I can see it. I kind of wanted to drop the prediction, the Colton's prediction time, where I just have this feeling that a team that's never won a championship before will win their first championship this season. But that's kind of one of those weird out there predictions. But like, what if the Grizzlies or Thunder can get it done? But
Sacramento. Go back,
Sacktown.
go back
Well,
to
like
your,
if you look at the cluster of like the West, right? Not a lot separates anything right now. If you go down till Portland, of course. Same thing with the East. Obviously, some of this stuff will sort itself out, but I don't know. I think that it's really Boston's to lose in terms of the East. I agree with you in terms of Cleveland's tough. I think they can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals just how with how much dominance they've played with. They've kind of been at another gear I think they'll come with a new level of confidence. I don't know kind of where it's coming from. I feel like everyone's kind of been waiting for that to kind of fall off. But 21-4, I mean, where
It's
does
got
it
to
kind of
be
stop?
it's got to be frustrating to be a Cleveland fan right now because I feel like the whole league, like all the fans of every other team, is just fully expecting them to fall off. Doesn't really take them very seriously, even though they're 21-4 and look,
21-4.
better than Boston on like every major stat. But yeah, I don't really have much faith in them either.
It
We'll
just,
find
yeah, yeah, I guess playoff times is when it matters. They got hot maybe at the wrong time, if they were playing this way when the playoffs come around. But that's what separates out the boys from the men, as they say.
10 point per game point differential.
One thing I will say about Boston is it is hard to repeat in the NBA when you play so many extra games the next year when playoff time comes around, teams look tired. That's what happened to Denver. It's what happens to most teams the next year. But if any team can do it, they can just because of their depth and how stacked they are. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see who wins this game. Warriors are kind of taking advantage right now, but it's still close. See you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.